Okay. In this life, one should most importantly, especially in the annals of politics, be intellectually honest with themselves and subsequently be intellectually honest with the people that they are beholden to. In America, it would be the American people. In Grenada, as a politician, it will be the Grenadian people. So if as a party, you come into power and you want to define yourself, or you want to prove to the Grenadian people that you have some sort of vision, then you have got to do something tangible, something that the Grenadian people can point to, can look at, can feel, can see, and say, oh, there it is. There is something that was created by party X, Y, and Z. If, however, all you do is continue things you've inherited and has not established yourself or define yourself or show to the people that here is something that I created from scratch. Here is something infrastructurally that I have built or I have done. Then you have not started to define yourself. You have not started to show the Grenadian people that you have a vision or that you are heading down a particular path. And while continuity is a good thing in government, I'm not saying it's bad, but it does not help to define you, party XYZ, and it does not help to explain your vision. It's okay to continue things, especially if they make sense, but for you to define yourself, you have got to show what vision you have, what new project that you are going to engage in that will help develop the society in which you have been put in charge. So say what you want to say about the NNP. One thing is for sure, infrastructurally, they have already made their mark. There are several tangible infrastructure that you can look to and said, this was done or this was created under the NNP's watch. I mean, the tongue of St. George, in many respects, has been transformed by those infrastructural projects, whether it was done privately or facilitated by government. And there is no dispute in that. Again, good experience and judgment is invaluable in the annals of politics. And say what you want to say about Dr. Keith Mitchell, he has and had the ability to see value in people, even if they are on the other side of the aisle, and he was able to incorporate them, use their technical human resource for the benefit of his party and Grenada at large. At the end of the day, he understood that when things are done under the watchful eyes of the NNP, then guess what? His administration will get credit for it. So if you come into politics and you engage in petty differences and conflict and petty preferences and petty likes and dislikes, then guess what? You are depriving yourself of extensive resources that you can use. And when it's done under your watch, whether it is an NNPI that did it or somebody else that did it, guess who gets credit for it? You, party XYZ, because it's done under your watch. Even if an NNP worker or NNPite or GULPite or whatever ite does it, and it's done under your watch, you get credit for it. So you don't want to have to constantly fill the ranks of any particular project. And I know you want to, pass poke barrels to your own people and stuff like that. But don't forget to use the technical, human, and physical material resources of people who can help you achieve whatever project that you are embarking on. Because at the end of the day, as I have said, you, as party XYZ, will get credit for it. Now again, talking about being intellectually honest. Now, if you have a tragedy, whether it be by nature or man-made or war or something like that, and it devastates your country, or it negatively impacts your country and destroys infrastructure. Now, if you get charitable handouts to rebuild that infrastructure, or if you get insurance to rebuild that infrastructure, now, you cannot say that this is a market political achievement, because all you are doing is rebuilding what you had or what was existing. You have not moved forward. You have not gained. You're trying to get back where you were. So for you to excel or for you to get political kudos, you have to show that you have exceeded what was existing, that you have created much more than what existed, and that you have a plan to exceed enormously what was there. So don't get too excited to quickly tap yourselves on the shoulder and say, look, we built back what was there. We're back to square one. Oh, we're not even yet back to square one, but we're getting back to square one. Have you improved your society? Have you enlarged your society? No. And you have not done that by some market political genius, a market economic genius, because a lot of that is done by charity. A lot of that is done by insurance rewards. So you get the point. So in one of my videos, I spoke about being careful about unfettered, youthful adventurism. And I place emphasis on the value in age, experience, and good judgment. So whenever someone embarks on anything new, if you did not know, I guarantee you, especially if it's something that has been done before, that there are people around you in your society that knows. And you should tap into their ability, their experience, and their good judgment, because as I have just said, when you achieve that particular project and it's done and over with, and it's standing there for everyone to see, you as party XYZ will get credit for it. So I saw a little clip about the Molyneux project. And for those who know, you know I have spoke extensively about this from the inception. And then after I realized that the people that I was speaking to were a bunch of water boys and water girls and had no influence or no connection to get the message to the right people, then I probably about a whole 8 months passed and I said nothing. But much of what I have said became apparent. And who am I? Nobody has to listen to me. I'm sure there are tons of people in Grenada who has the technical resource and may have seen many of the things that I've said, but probably would have gotten disenchanted by the political pettiness and the political, oh, it's our time. I know we're young and we're youthful and we know what we're doing. So they distanced themselves or didn't get involved. But when that happens, guess what? You are forced to learn things the hard way. There is a reason why we have a school system or education system, so that we can educate our young and our youth so that they can make better decisions or wise decisions as they grow older, because they didn't born knowing everything. So if there is political youthfulness, or if you're not politically aware or entirely educated, and that is a fact, we understand that. You have to first acknowledge within yourselves that, hey, I don't know this, but I am willing to learn. People will be more understanding if you say to them, look, I am politically unaware. On a particular project, I am unaware. But I am calling on the Grenadian people at large, and I want to mobilize you to get involved in this particular project, especially those people who have experience, for the benefit of all. Then just maybe, you will see people are more receptive to what you're doing. People are more willing to get involved. And in the long term, that'll be a good thing. So I am happy that the Molinet project is almost complete. But I believe there is some sort of obligation to the Grenadian people to explain to them financially what it costs the taxpayers. Because you had an initial design that was paid for, millions of dollars, I think. And then you had a redesign that had to be paid for. Then you had a partial construction, and then you had a reconstruction that had to be paid for. So let's find out. Let's do some public disclosure and explain to the people, what did it cost for the initial design? What did it cost for the redesign? And what was the ultimate cost of construction? There's value in that. So you can see how much resources, financial resources, was allocated to the project. So you can learn going forward. And I know it was a learning process. And it's very apparent. Now, again, as I said, I saw a clip, and then there was some talk of slope stabilization, upper slope stabilization and bottom slope stabilization. And the possibility that if the upper slope were to destabilize, then there is some passage under the bridge for the movement of material. But it was rightfully said that the upper slope need to be stabilized and the bottom slope need to be stabilized. Now, this is something, based on how the project was running, that should have been done initially. Would have been easier, would have been more manageable. But now what you have to go and stabilize the upper slope and stabilize especially the bottom slope, you will have to put young men and women who are working on the project in precarious positions. You'll have to endanger them. You'll have to put harnesses on them to achieve this. Something that you could have achieved in a much more manageable way at the beginning of a project. No, you have to jeopardize, especially knowing the history of what has happened with construction accident on the project. So these young men and women will have to jeopardize themselves to go and stabilize the slope around the project. Now, just maybe, if you had tapped into the technical and human resource that is available, I'm sure, in Grenada, and the experience and judgment of grown people who have done this before, then you probably would not have had that problem. And again, I don't expect anyone to listen to me. Who am I? I'm just a guy who has a little bit of common sense. But here's a clip from a video that I made from the inception of the project, talking about this very thing.
They got absolutely terrified. And I've also heard, there were people who were looking at all the excavation was taking place. And what the hell is going on? Why is there so much excavation taking place? Because of course they didn't understand the new system that was in place. Just to get back a little to, as we're talking about excavation, just to get back a little to something that may not have been included in the design, and if it was not implemented by the contractors, and that is very critical, and that was what we call erosion control methods. And I'll break it down pretty straightforward. Now, when you have soil covered with vegetation, trees, whatever, grass, whatever, and you excavate, what you're doing is that you're exposing the soil to the elements of nature. Rainfall, water, whatever. So anytime you excavate or you disturb the soil, it is very important that you do something after you've disturbed the soil or you've excavated to protect the topsoil. And usually they're very straightforward ways of doing that, as some people may be familiar with. You probably would plant some grass just to cover the soil temporarily. There's also a lot of polymers, or what you call erosion control fabrics, which you will use to cover the soil temporarily because you've excavated and you've actually exposed it. So none of that was done. So that was a problem, okay? Because as you could imagine, now that you've removed the vegetation cover of the soil and you've excavated, what happens when a big rainfall comes down? That soil is exposed. You'll have erosion. So that was one of the things that definitely was not done. And if it was part of the contract documents, it should have been done by the contractors. If it was not part of the contract documents, that is very unfortunate. Should have been part of the design, or should have been catered for. Another thing, again, that should have been straightforward, had to do with what you would refer to as work zone traffic control. Work zone, of course, is the area that you work in. The traffic control means exactly what it says. You want to control the traffic. So instead of a minister, which is unfortunate, because I don't think it's something that he had to do. It's something that the technocrats who understand and who's working under his command should have really understood, because I've seen a lot of that. I've seen, which we would go through. I've seen the prime minister, you could actually see how much this project was kind of weighing heavy on him. And I understand, and it's sad because he didn't have to go through that. There are people being paid, technical guys who are being paid to actually do the groundwork, so to speak. And especially when you have to answer to the Grenadian people and you have to face the media, and these guys are sometimes can be hostile. That's a difficult situation to be in, which really he should not have to be in that situation, because hence the reason why you hire technical people to handle things like that. The prime minister and the ministers are, more or less directors of policy. They shouldn't have to be implementers of policy. You see what I'm saying? So that's where your technical guys come in, and the people who are actually doing the work. They're the ones should be responsible for things like that. So the work zone traffic control, that was not done.
Okay, so you've seen the video that I've made over a year ago, and talking about erosion control, which is something that should have been done at the inception of the project. Again, just to reiterate, you remove vegetation cover, you need to put some sort of mechanism in place to cover the topsoil, geotextile, or start seeding the project-wide area with grass or something like that. Now, that is the reason why, remember there was some time ago I saw a little vid where people in the area were terrified because they saw some sheet erosion. So the bottom line is this. I'm saying all of this to say that forget the youthful adventurism. Understand that experience, good judgment, and wisdom is needed in whatever you embark on in this life. Okay? And I'm sure there are going to be other projects that government XYZ will be embarking on. And probably just maybe you might want to, use your technical resource you have in your country to help you out on those projects. I mean, I know they're talking about there's some transportation board or something like that, and there's a lot to be done in terms of transportation. So these are some of the things to consider. Other infrastructural projects that you may embark on, look into that. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully you've learned a lot with the Millennium Project going forward. So anything else, what you've learned, you can implement. But still, there is concern. Meticulously and carefully, the erosion control that you're about to implement should be done with caution so that no one's life is actually jeopardized. So I think we've gotten a mouthful and there's a lot to digest. Hopefully it was valuable and can be of some use. In the video, in the comment section, I will put a link to the entire video I had made about the Millennium Project. So you can take a look at it. I think there's some valuable information in there that you can share. And as we say in German, Tschüss, auf Wiedersehen.